Hello there. So, I've been struggling for quite some time now to get a demo ready for the storm in my head, so that my friends can finally try out what I've been rambling about for over a year now. But making a demo for a game isn't that easy. Well, at least I didn't make it easy for myself, because for this demo, I needed most, if not all, of the core systems to be done and working, so that, and I quote, the demo will then become more like a vertical slice, a small example of all the systems and mechanics that will be in the final game. To get this demo ready, I needed to have these systems: localization, as in language options, handling different input methods, that being keyboard or controller, and making UI changes accordingly. A menu system with the menu animations, a saving system, a dialogue system, decent enemy AI and modular enemy classes and behaviors that can be easily expanded upon to make new and more advanced enemies. And this isn't a system, but I also needed some art assets and to somewhat polish the game. This isn't essential, but I wanted the game to feel somewhat good to play. Well, you can now understand why this took me so long. I mean, to be honest, I sort of stole most of these systems from the internet, and I'll link all the resources down in the description. But still, if it were as easy as just copying some code, I would have been done a long time ago. That's because I had to make changes to most of these systems to get them to work with my already existing, rather messy game code. I also had to write logic for handling the different game states of the game, and getting all of these systems to work together based on the current game state. And I also tried my best to automate most of my workflow, which took significant amounts of time. So let's start by talking about each system, and I'll try to explain it and talk about the problems I faced while working on it. But a quick side note before we start: this isn't by any means a tutorial. My goal with this video is to show you that making a game can be challenging, but only when you want it to be. And since I want to have flexible and automated systems, I need to take on the challenges. My goal here is to also show you how these systems are connected to each other and how they need to work in harmony together to have somewhat of a stable game. Alright, let's start. So first up, we have the localization system. I followed a tutorial by
Game Dev Guide,
in which he used the .csv file placed in the resources folder, and using a dictionary, he was able to use keys and assign different values according to the language. This system works brilliantly, but some adjustments needed to be made. Well, mostly editor stuff. But I also still had to actually implement the new localization to any text component in the game, which luckily wasn't much. This system overall didn't take that long to implement, and it works pretty nicely. I highly recommend checking out the tutorial if you're looking for something similar. For the input management, I decided to switch to the new Unity input system, which made it really easy to use different input methods. The tutorial by
Sam Yam,
really helped me set things up, and after some fiddling around and diving into the Unity threads, I managed to find a way to track when the input device has changed. The code is a bit messy and very much duct taped, but it works, at least for now. I use this to change the button indicator that appears on top of the player's head when entering an interactable area. The menu system was pretty straightforward. Go to GitHub, get the code, watch a tutorial, although I did have to make a few changes here and there to make it possible to animate these menus. I then proceeded to create my menus and set them up, and voila, it works. I then had to hook it up with the input system to be able to navigate the menus through keyboard or controller, which was somewhat tricky at the start, but turned out to be quite easy. So to be able to navigate each menu, here's what I do. Each menu I have has a field for the first selected item. So if I decide to put, say, a button in this slot, it will be automatically selected when the menu is shown. And that happens using a function called handle navigation, which sits in the menu manager class. And what this function does is first get the top menu, which is the menu that is currently active, then check if it has a selected item. If it does, it sets the selected game object of the event system to that item, and then resets all the items in the active menu. It's really straightforward, and Unity pretty much handles the navigation for me using the Unity event system. This function is then called whenever a new menu gets activated, and yeah, that's it. I then moved on to work on a saving system for the game. I already had a script that would save and load some data, but this wasn't flexible enough. So I hit Google and found this incredible saving system by
Lowscope.
He's got a free version, which is the one I'm currently using, and a paid version on the Unity Asset Store. This isn't by any means sponsored, but I do recommend getting the package, as it's incredibly flexible and easy to use. It's also well documented, and the creator seems to be active from what I've seen. This system allowed me to do all sorts of stuff, such as having different saving slots, holding each different data, and tracking data about each slot. It's just great. So I implemented this into the game, which was straightforward, and played around with it, making some tweaks here and there. The problems I had while working on this was having to rewrite a lot of old code, because it was causing a lot of bugs as soon as I changed the most minuscule of things. Next up is the dialogue system, which was probably the most challenging of the bunch. I mean, it's still based on a YouTube tutorial by
Karim Jerry.
But I had to make a lot of changes to get it to work for my needs, and add some more functionality to it. I covered this in an early video of mine, but since then even more improvements have been made. So here I choose the character that will say the line, which allows me to show their icon. This will allow me to add certain reactions to lines, a bit like the way Hades does it, which I think helps make the NPCs more interesting and more alive. I also had to integrate the localization system to this, which was somewhat straightforward. And yeah, this dialogue system was and still is something that I always will come back to and improve time after time. The enemy AI in creating modular enemy behaviors was probably the system I had the most fun with. This video by
The Caicus
really helped me to structure everything. The trick here is to essentially try to generalize behaviors as much as possible, and make them expandable and easy to use for multiple enemies and enemy types. You also have to make sure that each class is responsible for only one behavior at a time. This was quick enough to implement, but I did struggle a bit with getting the animations to feel right. I will not get into the details and explain what each class does, just because the tutorial already does a good job at it. So all of these systems will be the base for the game. They all feed into each other, like the dialogue system using the localization system, or menus such as the settings menu or the save slots menu that use the saving system to save or load data. To hook things up, I decided to use states. So in general, the game can be in two different states: gameplay state or main menu state. But when in the gameplay state, the game can be in one of these three states: Dream Alive, Dream Dead, or In Room. Dream Alive means that the player is in a dream and is alive. Dream Dead means that the player is in a dream but has died. And In Room means that the player is awake. I made it so that states will be automatically set whenever a new scene gets loaded. This states approach allows me to have different behaviors on different states. So for example, if the game is in the gameplay state, I need to show the gameplay menu. And if it is in the main menu state, I need to show the title menu. If the game is in Dream Alive state, I need to initialize the player's health and show health UI. And if it's in the Dream Dead or In Room state, the player's health isn't needed, so I can hide the health UI. I can even have different songs that play according to the active game state. The possibilities are endless here. And since I'm a big fan of it, I wanted to automate these behaviors for each system. So I added an action, which is an event that I call each time the state changes. I then have all the systems that need to know the game state listen for that event, and whenever it's fired, each system will automatically set itself up to work with a new game state. So for example, let's say that I want to make a little system that applies different post-processing according to the state. First, I'll make a function called handle post-processing. Inside of this function, I'll have a switch statement that will check the game state and set the post-processing. I'll then hook this function to the onSwitchState event in the start function. And voila, it works. If we check, we can see that whenever we enter a new game state, the post-processing changes. There are obviously more systems in the game that take advantage of the game states, but I thought I'd confine myself to what I think are the most important systems that, in my opinion, should be present in every game. So yeah, this is why making a demo that looks really simplistic took me so long to finish. And even now I'm still making small tweaks and adding new stuff, but I'm almost done, I swear. Anyways, I hope this video was somewhat helpful. Be sure to check out the description for all the resources. I'm sure they'll be of great help. And again, I never really intended this video to be a tutorial, but if you want me to make one, or if you have any questions, make sure to leave them in the description, and I'll try my best to answer. Alright, that's it for me. Thanks for watching. I hope you'll stick around by liking the video and subscribing, and I hope to see you in the next one, which will hopefully be about choice and the storm in my head. Alright, have a great day.